waiting. We're a little late, but we here. Tell somebody to tune in while y'all waiting.
Share this. Copy and paste this link on your social media. Good morning to Cynthia Bowden.
Good morning, man.
15 seconds. 10 seconds. Here we go.
Here we go.
Hey everybody,
Good
good morning.
morning.
Good morning, good morning.
Great morning.
Great morning.
Woo!
Happy morning. We are so glad to be here. Welcome to Back to Basics, Eyes of Faith broadcast with Pastor James E. Sturdivant. We are extremely excited to be here every Wednesday at 10 o'clock on your in the very fine studios of
Very fine.
WBGR. We are excited to be here. WBGR, good morning to you all and YouTube family. Good morning. Thank you all for your patience. Had a little bit of technical stuff, but we are here. Sharon Dorsey, good morning. I see you. Those that are on YouTube, shout out your good mornings. Let us know what area you're in. We're going to shout you out. But we are here. We're filling in this space because, of course, Pastor Sturdivant, he has some things happening. And here's the thing. This is one of the things that we wanted to let everybody know. We'll announce it again towards the end of the broadcast. But Pastor Sturdivant has a birthday coming up.
Yes, he does.
He has a birthday coming
real
up
soon,
in a couple of days. And what I want you all to do, WBGR family, YouTube family, what I want you all to do, if you feel like you want to be a blessing to Pastor Sturdivant because, you know, he's just been one that has poured into your life, whether it's, you know, the books that he's written. If you don't have these books, I encourage you to go onto his personal page, www.jesturdivantministries.com. That's www.jesturdivantministries.com, and you'll be able to purchase the books. You'll be able to hear him talk about the books. And he's doing a holiday special where if you buy 5 of the books, he'll give you one of the books for free. Now, that special is not going to last long. It's a special holiday birthday, you know, gift that he's doing because every year for his birthday, he likes to give gifts away. So if you want to be a blessing, you know, everybody getting ready for Black Friday and all of that is good. But if you really want to give somebody something special, I encourage you, encouragement in small doses. I encourage you to make this investment and help change somebody's life. Please go onto his personal webpage. You can purchase the books, but if Pastor Sturdivant has been a blessing to you, whether it's from the books, whether it's from the teachings, the broadcast, his you know,
teaching.
his mosaic teaching, he has a whole lot going on, and just him not only just being an anointed man of God, but he's accessible. Whenever, you know, if you need to talk to him, he's there. He makes himself available, and he's just a gift, you know, to the body of Christ. So if you want to be a blessing and sow a birthday seed to Pastor Sturdivant, he's turning 61. 61 years young. 61 years young. In a couple of days, he will be 61. WBGR YouTube family, I encourage you all. He doesn't know that we're making this announcement, so he, you know, will be surprised. But just throw surprise cash apps at him. Let him wake up, or let him walk down the street and just hear coins dropping on his phone, and let that be, you know, just put birthday seed. Just put birthday seed. In the title of it, and surprise him with showing some love, just saying, man of God, we appreciate you, we thank you, and I just want to sow a seed. I promise you that will be a great surprise. He didn't know that we was going to do this, and it was something that Steph and I, you know, had talked about, because he is one that he's deserving of it, and he gives of himself to a lot of people. So it will be just a small way to say thank you. Steph, you want to greet the people?
Yes, I do. Hey. Good morning.
Good
morning. WBGR, YouTube. Look, guys, every Wednesday we're here. We're ready, you know, because we got something to say. I want to have somebody to say it too. So make sure you guys are sharing this. We definitely appreciate you guys, WBGR, tuning in every Wednesday on the Facebook, YouTube. You guys are coming in. Make sure you tell the people that were on Facebook, like, guys, make sure you go to YouTube now because that's where we are. Because we definitely want to get this word out between Janice, myself, when Pastor's not here, we still hold it down, and I honestly thank him for the opportunity and for him trusting us to do it because it's hard, and you know it's a big responsibility, believe it or not. We don't just be like, yay, let's go and do this. But no, it really is a blessing to us as well, and I'm just grateful for the opportunity. So definitely share this and give us some feedback because we go back and look at it.
Yes, please. Let's make this an interaction, dialogue, you know, that you all have with us. YouTube, we can see your comments and responses, so please, you know, interact with us. And we just got to say that we're grateful to be here. I was going to sing a song, but I didn't really feel like, you know, people would appreciate our talents. And then they would go back and tell Pastor, like, they sung, they sounded terrible. You know, we don't want that to happen.
Okay. Well, I'll leave it alone.
You feel like you have a song on your spirit.
Yeah, I always have a song in my spirit. But
we're gonna be easy today.
Yeah, just because I want you to rest your vocals.
So we're excited. So we're gonna jump right into this teaching because you know time does fly when you're having fun. So again, copy and paste. But over the past few months, wow, it's been a few months. We've been talking about dysfunction within the family, and that's been a thing that really has been hitting home because a lot of people don't realize how dysfunction plays a part in a lot of relationships. We don't realize how dysfunction, it's not even just a family, whether it's siblings or parents or siblings and parents, but it's also in any relationship that you have, whether it's a friend, whether it's a co-worker, you know, any relationship, there can be areas of dysfunction. And what we want to try to do today is try to bring to light what causes the dysfunction so that we can try to prevent dysfunction within relationships. Because, you know, what I've realized personally is that dysfunction wastes a lot of time. You know, dysfunction causes a lot of friction that isn't necessary. I see you, Tracy Jackson. Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. Good to see you. Dysfunction causes a lot of stress, a lot of frustration that doesn't have to be there if we actually just deal with it right then and there. And I know that Pastor has alluded to it in previous teachings where the generations before us, that generation, they were private. So they didn't really talk about a lot of stuff, you know, that was going on amongst family members, things that was going on within family households. Those things were never talked about. So then the generations that came after them ended up having to deal with some of the issues that were never talked about in the generations before. And so even as it relates to like our family, I know you can talk about your family in a second, but with our family line, a lot of the dysfunctions that we deal with, or what, you know, some people would deem as generational curses, a lot of them have to do with outward stuff as far as substance abuse, sexuality, you know, identity, you know, those type of things. But then you have some of the dysfunctions that aren't really so obvious. I mean, you do have like, you know, alcoholism and drug abuse and those things that are outward. But what about the stuff that you really can't see? That's not, you know, that's not obvious. And what causes dysfunctions, a lot of the dysfunctions is some of the things that we can't see. Whether it's jealousy, whether it's bitterness towards another family member, whether it's favoritism, which is what we're going to talk about in a second, whether it's, you know, envy, those type of things you really can't see, and subtly those things transpire because of choices that are made amongst the family. If you had to think about some of the things that your family deal with as far as like dysfunctions or generational, what would you say within your family?
Like you were saying, because they were private, it's the only ones that I could really say for sure are the ones that were outward because it was obvious and it was right there in our face. And as an adult, that's clearly growing up in dysfunction. But to guess or assume some of the other things that I definitely know that lie in our family somewhere on both sides, if it is my mother or father, is definitely depression. It's a lot of mental instability, in the family. If it's actually, that falls on both sides, and that's something that's not really dealt with, especially in our community. And I actually have a cousin that is diagnosed with I think it's like schizophrenia, bipolar, and it's really it's I don't want to say crazy because that's not the right word to use, but to see it and to know that that's there and he can't be the first one that was dealing with this, it's kind of sad that it was never talked about. Yeah. And he had to deal with it so long on his own before it was diagnosed, and he's treated now for it, thank God, but it was like he went a good 20 years living with this, and I could only imagine how that, could be.
One of the things, even if you think about it, because I know you were saying if you had to guess or you assume, but if you were to be honest, you can tell some of the dysfunctions that are in your family based off of some of the choices that you've made personally. But a lot of times we don't look at ourselves, or it's kind of hard for us to see or want to see, the things that we deal with or we struggle with. So it's easy to look at it in other family members. But if truth could be told, some of the dysfunctions, you don't even have to go far into great-great-grandparents. Right. Just kind of look at yourself. Look at your parents. When you see certain things as far as how they move or how they are, you can tell, okay, well, this is something that our family deals with. And a lot of times, because truth really does hurt, we don't want to see it. Like for me, there are some times where I'm not angry, but sometimes I have low patience. I have low patience. Yeah. And my patience is not always there. God is working on me, because I'm trying to get there. My patience is good some days, and some days I don't have patience, and I just be over it. But it's not that, and it's a small thing. You may say, well, that's not really a dysfunction. But here's the thing. If I allow my impatience to continue to control how I move as far as my actions within the relationships, it can cause dysfunction. If I'm in a friendship with Steph and she's doing something and I'm impatient with her, I will start becoming irritated, start becoming angry, agitated, and that's going to start bringing friction between the two of us, which would then start to have an effect on our relationship. Small, subtle emotional changes causes dysfunctions within the relationships. And we don't realize it because we really don't want to look at how we really are. Looking at the man in the mirror. Oh, yeah. I'm just saying, sometimes it's kind of hard for us to look at the man in the mirror. It's easy for us to look at, my cousin is doing this, my uncle, he got this going on, my grandmother, she did this, and we can name everybody else's issues and dysfunctions, but when do we actually look at ourselves as far as how we're doing and what we're doing?
That's good, but for me personally, I don't see the connection. I really feel like my movement and just my struggles, period, are nowhere near my mother's struggles. Like, just to even look at the previous generation, because she would be the next one. And it's just kind of like, sometimes I honestly do feel alone in my struggles because I don't see it, or because those struggles weren't talked about. So the only people that I talk about it with are my friends or my peers, and it kind of, I don't know if that's beneficial or not because they're kind of in the same boat that I'm in, but it's good to hear that, like, what, maybe I should just ask them because this is my struggle, and maybe they were struggling with it too.
Yeah, I mean, even when we did the Family Matters conference a couple of weeks ago, and we were talking about the generations and talking about the root of some of the issues that stems from your family. If you were to actually go through some of the generations and discuss certain things, you'll be able to see how there may be somebody in your family that have dealt with what you dealt with. But if you're repeating the same pattern as far as not talking or reaching out to them, then it would just be something where you would feel alone because you're following the same pattern. But if it's something where it's like, Ma, look, this is something that I'm dealing with. Tell me if this is something that you ever dealt with, or if anybody in our family dealt with it. Just because I know I may not be the only one. I feel like I'm the only one in it, but I may not be the only one. Like, did you deal with something similar to this? And then once you kind of like open up that door, she may say, Steph, I did kind of go through something similar like that, a few years back. And then you'll be like, oh, know. So this is something that, you know, has transpired. But if we don't ever communicate, and a lot of times our generation, we try to handle everything on our own.
Right.
You know, I'm doing me. I made the problem. I'm gonna try to fix the problem. You know, we try to do everything on our own, and we really don't seek help. And sad to say, as a result of that, now our suicidal rates and now domestic violence rates has gone up. And I'm saying that not just for saying that, I'm saying it because I work for suicide lines and I work for domestic violence, and to hear, you know, the amount of calls that we get, especially from young people. You know, you got them young as like 10, you know what I mean, or having, you know, people that are teenagers in high school and college, and they're suffering as it relates to, whether you said earlier as far as mental illness, or they're suffering as it relates to domestic violence, or they're suffering as it relates to, you know, not feeling loved in their home, and they don't know who they can talk to, so then they end up calling us. And they say they can't talk to their family, or their family don't understand, and there's so many reasons, because at the end of the day, when do we actually share and communicate with those that we care about what we got going on? And so even when we're talking to these people over the hotline, we do ask them, who do you talk to about what's going on? That's one of the questions that we ask them. And some of them would say, you know, I don't talk to anybody. That's why I'm calling here. Or I don't have any friends, or I don't have any family. Well, of course you have family, because you was brought into the world from family. But because family may have disowned them, or family may have pushed them to the curb, they don't feel like they have anybody to talk to. And sad to say, the domestic violence rates, the suicidal rates are getting higher and higher, because we're not talking, we're not communicating. And if we communicated more within our relationships, we wouldn't have as many dysfunctions that we have in the relationships.
Yeah, that's so true, because, like, thinking about it, my mom and my sister were in a household together growing up for the most part, and it was I always, for the most part, felt like my mom and my sister were closer than me and my mother. And for a long time, like, I never felt jealous at that time, but looking back at it, my actions showed that I was clearly jealous, and I felt some type of way about it. But I'm sure if I would have just opened my mouth and said something to my mother, like, okay, this is how I feel, or, you know, I feel like, you know, you talk to Angel more than you talk to me. It could have just been Angel's personality and, you know, mine's, and she was trying to deal with me the way she felt that she could communicate with me the best. But if I would have said, no, I want you to do this, I'm sure she would have, and that was my loss. So yeah, you're right, communication definitely could help, especially when it comes to the siblings, because that kind of formed me and my sister's relationship as well, and it was like almost like a foundation of competitiveness from the beginning.
And I mean, the fact that you can actually pinpoint that, that's amazing, because I mean, even just thinking about some of the dysfunctions that took place, had I just said something to my sister, or had she said something to me, we wouldn't have grown up, you know, feeling like we got to compete against each other. Or my brothers, you know what I mean? Like, that communication is key. And it's not too late, you know, to mend it. But, you know, for those parents who have kids, you know, you have to just kind of be mindful as far as the treatment that you give to, you know, the siblings. You know, Pastor says all the time, he loves all his kids equally, but he loves them differently. And a lot of times we love our kids not equally. And that's what brings about some of the areas as it relates to, like, the favoritism. When you kind of think about the story of Joseph, you know, he has an interesting story. And I'm sure a lot of you all know the story of Joseph and how, you know, what he went through with his siblings. And we know everything as far as the brothers, you know, and how they mistreated it. But even before all of that came about, as far as the brothers mistreating, you have to almost kind of look at everything that Jacob went through, which is his father, that kind of triggered down, even as it relates to, you know, the dysfunction. I mean, you've had, you had sexual assault that took place, and as a result, the brothers, you know, went to go, you know, steal from, you know, the people that assaulted the sister, went to go steal, you know, some of this livestock and everything. I mean, you've had so much dysfunction that took place in Joseph and Jacob's life prior to Joseph's brothers being jealous of him. But as a result, Jacob showed favoritism to Joseph. He showed favoritism to Joseph, and Joseph was the youngest one. Before Benjamin came in the picture, Joseph was the youngest one. So, of course, the older siblings who had been around, they lived life. They helped, journey. They helped, provide food. They were there. Of course, when, they start to see their father showing favoritism to Joseph, it's like, wait, how you going to do this to him? And he just came in the picture, and we've been in the picture all this time, and you didn't give us half the stuff you giving him. I mean, you buying him coats. You know what I mean? You giving him all the things. He don't even have to work as hard as we did. Like, he just coming on the scene, and everything is easy for him. And because they saw the treatment that the father gave to one of the siblings, it prompted them to act out. So, of course, they had did everything as it relates to, throwing him in a pit. And then, of course, Joseph ended up being sold into slavery and all those things. But here's one of the things that I really appreciate, because even though, the competitive jealousy took place where Joseph didn't feel loved. I mean, can you imagine Joseph every day trying to tell his brothers, hey, I had a dream. I want to talk to you all about this. And then the brothers like,
shut them down.
I want to hear your dreams. Hard. Like, you know what I mean? And it's like Joseph trying to be loving, trying to be caring. And the brothers, they're already mad and irritated with him because of the lack of, attention that the father was giving to them because of Joseph. So they was just shutting Joseph down. And again, it wasn't even Joseph's fault that he was favored. It wasn't even, Joseph didn't ask to be shown favoritism. It just ended up happening where Jacob showed him favoritism. And yet Joseph had to be punished in a sense by his brothers because of the actions that his father showed to him. And that's what ends up happening. Like we sometimes, if you don't deal with certain things, you're having to now take on other people's issues because again, if my parents show favoritism to me, it would be unfair for my siblings to treat me a certain way because I didn't ask my parents to show favoritism. And I'm not saying that's the case at all. They don't. But what I'm saying is it's unfair when a child have to fight, certain treatment or certain things because of something that the parent did or didn't do.
Right.
And that's a lot. Outside of having to grow up and try to figure out my own identity and who I am and, the role that I play amongst my family, now I'm having to deal with this as well. And I ain't even asked for this to be brought on. And we don't realize how certain choices end up having an effect on other people. You want to say something on that, Nana?
Yeah, just the effect that it actually has on the relationship that you form, like how we always say that, the relationships that you form outside of the family are formed based off of the relationships you had in the family. And when, when you're raised, well, I can only speak for me. So because I was raised with a sister for the most part, when I went out getting to know people and making new friends, all of them were pretty much the complete opposite of my sister. If they reminded me of her a little bit, I just already knew, I couldn't be your friend.
And they could have been good for you.
And they could have been what I needed to help maybe understand my sister more or, just anything. And I automatically just shut them down because I already had her in the house. Don't even want her outside.
You didn't want to deal with it.
Yeah, but I mean, that's kind of sad because not only could I have missed out on other friendships, it could have opened doors and opportunities for me and my sister's relationship to get better.
Or it could be a thing where, that's a good example, and it could be a thing where because you didn't get certain things from your sister, not saying you, but you don't get certain things from inside the house, you go outside the house looking for it. If I feel like I didn't get the love from my mother, I'm going to go outside the house and look for that love from a female that's kind of older, that's, that had the wisdom and the nurturing as my mother does. And I end up connecting. Now, this is not even a peer, but I end up connecting to an older person because I was looking for this from my mother. My mother didn't give me this type of affection, so I had went outside looking for that relationship. You always just got to be mindful, and we had said this before, check the relationships, that you have outside of your family. Why are they your friends? What makes them be somebody that you confide into? What was it about them that they gave to you that you needed that you wasn't getting from inside the house? You know, you have to consider those things. So even when we kind of think about Joseph, and Joseph went through a lot. I mean, sold into slavery, having to, you know, be a slave because of what his brothers did to him. I mean, he's now having to live a whole different life, you know, in slavery, being under somebody else's rules, away from his family. I mean, his father thinking that he's dead because his brothers told his father that he was dead. And so imagine all that he's going through, and he's having to now readjust his whole entire life because of choices and undealt with issues that took place in the house. And so he's going through all of that. And even when you kind of think about it, you know, and you kind of look at it, one of the things that I really appreciate about Joseph, you're going to read a little something? One of the things that I really appreciate about Joseph is even with all the dysfunction that he went through, he never lost that intimate connection that he had with God. That's one of the things that, you know, that's just admirable and has Joseph's story stands out because God was with him from the beginning. Right. Whether it was God, you know, being with him when he had the dreams and being able to interpret dreams. He was trying to tell his brothers at a young age about this, you know, gift that he was given, but the brothers didn't want to hear it. You know, so God was with him, and even when he got into, you know, slavery, and then he got into working into Potiphar's house, you know, he could have easily, you know, engaged with Potiphar's wife. He didn't do that. You know, he was trustworthy in his character. He chose to be obedient to authority. He chose to be sexually pure and stayed a virgin even when temptation and sexual temptation, you know, was presented to him. He chose to be forgiving even when his brothers had came back into the picture and they were in need of him because where they were, they endured a famine and they needed food and stuff, so they came back once Joseph was, you know, head of, you know, certain authorities and positions in the house, and they came back, and Joseph could have easily said, nah, I ain't gonna help y'all. Y'all threw me in a pit. Y'all had me sold into slavery, and now y'all need my help. Hey, Ben Lane, we see you. Good morning. Now y'all need my help. I ain't helping y'all. Right. And he could have easily just been unforgiving and held that grudge. But he exposed himself to his brothers. He let his brothers see him for who he really was, and he ended up helping him. And that was the thing. Even with dysfunction, if you continue to have that relationship with God, God will continue to cover you with everything that you have going on. And one of the things that I wanted to just kind of like let you all hear, what causes some of the dysfunctions within relationships. Once we know what kind of causes some of the dysfunctions within a relationship, Stephanie, I'll kind of talk about it for a little bit, and then you'll be able to see, okay, maybe I do deal with this. Maybe this is something that I do kind of, you know, struggle with. How can I prevent this from happening? If you kind of know what the root is, if you kind of know what causes things, you can then make choices to make it better. One of the things that causes dysfunctions in a relationship, and y'all can let me know if y'all agree. You can give me your thoughts and concerns about it. We would love to hear it. One of the things that causes, we're going to give y'all a couple of things. One of the things is shame. I'm sorry, not shame, blame. I'm sorry, blame. When we blame people for certain things. I work with teenage girls as well, and these are teenage girls who are in a group home who have, you know, a background. And you know, when I talk to them, I ask, you know, how did you get here? How did you get to this point where you feel like you had to do an illegal act that brought you to this place? And they'll start naming certain people, like my father, you know, he didn't do this, and my mother wasn't this, and all of that. And then they'll go through the list, and then I'll listen, then I'll say, well, how did you get here? They'll go through the list one more time, and I'm saying, okay, and I say their name, how did such and such get to this point? And then they'll think about it. And they'll say, well, I was blah, 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 blah. A lot of times we're so quick to blame other people for our choices before taking responsibility for what we did. Whether it was, I was jealous of you, or, you know, I didn't like you. It's certain things, but we don't communicate back to what we said originally as far as communication. And so we blame other people for, my mother wasn't here, she was on drugs, she never was in the house when I needed her. My father, you know, he barely was around. I needed him to show me how to be a female. I needed him to show me how to do certain things, and he never did that. He was never there for me. I don't have no siblings, you know what I mean? So nobody never showed me how to be a female or how to be, you know, this. And we blame everybody, and then when it's all said and done, you're still responsible for making the choices that you make.
I think it's funny that you said shame at first, because I feel like that's why we blame, because we're shameful to take on the responsibility to admit that this is what we did or this is what we said, and we have to blame someone else. Like, that's what it is. We're shameful.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And with that, you have guilt as well.
Yeah. Exactly.
You have guilt, you have shame, and you have blame. Because when it's all said and done, especially if I'm prideful, like I'm not going to admit, I'm not going to admit that I was wrong, and you want me to, you know, take responsibility for that. Like, no. And that's how we think sometimes. We think as far as blaming other people because I don't want to take ownership for my own actions and my own choices. Because, like we said in the beginning, it has you to have to look yourself in the mirror. And sometimes we have expectations of us not being or not doing a certain thing that it's hard for us to look and say, man, did I really do that? I didn't think that at this point in my life I would be moving like this. And we had those, like for me, there are certain things I'm like, why did I do that? Like, why did I do that? What was the purpose of me doing that? Janice, you knew better. You knew what was going to happen. You knew once you did this, it's going to open up so many other doors. You knew once you keep these doors open, it's going to bring on some other doors, some other spirits. Why do you keep on? And a lot of times, it's hard for us to admit. So now I'm going to blame, well, Steph, you shouldn't have even told me about this. Had you not told me about this, I wouldn't have been in this situation. And we blame other people. And it's like, Lisa Chu, good to see you, good morning. And it's like, okay, well, even if Steph introduced it to me, I had the choice to say, yes, I'm going to go ahead and do this, or no, this is not a good look for me. And we barely do we actually accept the responsibility of, I did this, I brought it on myself, it was wrong, I gotta do better. And it's a hard thing because we have the expectations of, you know, not letting ourselves down, and don't let it get to the point where we have made so many promises to God and we was just like, God, if you ever get me out of this, I promise I would never, ever get myself back in that type of situation. And then we do. So it's hard for us to, you know, accept responsibility because we have that shame. We have that guilt. And then so as a result of that, we end up blaming people. That's one of the things that kind of causes dysfunction. If you take responsibility for your own actions, there you go, Belen, you say it all the time. If you take responsibility for your own actions, your own choices, it will kind of prevent dysfunction within the relationship. You know what? I wasn't there for you. I should have been there for you. Growing up, I should have taught you how to ride a bike. I should have been there for you. I should have came and supported you when you was in school. I should have been there. And I wasn't, and I'm sorry. It's hard for us to kind of admit when we were wrong. And so that brings the dysfunction, because now the child or the sibling or whoever is the person, they're still having this anger, this frustration, this disappointment. Why wasn't my mother there? And even growing up, why aren't you still there? Why aren't you there for me? Was I not good enough? And then we start questioning ourselves. Was I that bad of a child that he didn't want me, that she didn't want to be around me?
Yeah, it falls into other areas.
It falls into a whole lot of areas. And then I start looking for love out here.
It's
because
like dysfunction spreading is contagious.
It started becoming contagious. And now I'm bringing everybody into my dysfunction. And I'm getting into relationships, not because I really want them, just because it's filling a void that I was missing from what I wasn't getting at home. We have to do better as it relates to taking responsibility for our own actions. whether sons, daughters, parents, we all play a part in a family. We all play a part, whether your family is close or not close. You play a part in a family. And when it's all said and done, what you do or don't do, it has an effect on other people. I'd be amazed when people say, I'm just doing me and it's not affecting nobody else. Well, it does. If you're connected to me, whether you're a coworker, a friend, associate, a brother, a cousin, my hairstylist, if you're connected to me, your choices end up affecting me, affecting our relationship. Because you start getting to a place where you're emotional, and then those emotions start to spill out in our friendship. And it's like, wait, I didn't have anything to do with that. Like, calm down. Why you giving me all of that? And we don't realize how our choices affect other people. So when you start taking responsibility of your actions, then that kind of helps prevent not having as many dysfunctions. You want to say anything on that point?
I feel like that. I mean, that's it in a nutshell. Like, with the blame, with the choices, all of that. I feel like if you got to start with your family, and then then that focuses on yourself. And I know for me personally, it's kind of hard to just talk to my family, so I'll talk to my friends first and have them as a sounding board. Like, what does this sound like? Am I coming across, whatever? Because sometimes, especially when you're heightened in the emotion or the feeling at the time, you can come across a little aggressive or not exactly how you mean to. So I definitely try to use people as a sounding board before, but I really think we need to start at home with the family, especially with the communication, with just saying what it is, what I need, what I'm missing, or how are you here? Just like how you just broke it down to me, like, thank you, I appreciate that. I need it, and I'm gonna start.
Yeah, no, that's responsibility. That's the main thing. Another thing that kind of causes, and this is again, we're trying to help you understand what kind of prevents or what causes dysfunction. So you have, the blame thing, and then another thing that I'm gonna allude to, and we had mentioned it earlier, family secrets. Family secrets have a major impact as it relates to dysfunction because, of course, what is a secret? A secret is something that is being done and dark and not told, and is not brought to light. And so when you have those areas as it relates to secrecy, whether I did this to you, don't tell mom, or I did this to you, don't tell dad, I brought this for you, don't tell your brothers or your sisters, or this happened to your aunt, but don't tell nobody. When we do those type of things, as far as not mention it to somebody else, that causes a lot of dysfunction, especially if I'm the one having to carry this load of information and you don't want me to tell nobody about it. How you think that's gonna make me feel? I now find out that somebody was molested in my family and you don't want me to say nothing to my family members. Well, what if that person molested somebody else in the family? Then I would feel even more guilty because had I said something that probably could have prevented something else happening. And we don't do that as it relates to secrecy. We say, I'm not going to say anything because I don't want to hurt their feelings. I don't want to say anything because if they found out, if they knew about this, then they would kind of look at that person differently. But I promise you, the more you keep on holding on to something like that, as far as secrets amongst the family, it doesn't do you any good, but it doesn't do the family any good. And who's to say that they may respond the way that you think they're going to respond? They may say, hey, Steph, I'm glad you told me. I'm glad you said something. But we always try to think that we're going to protect somebody's feelings by not saying anything. Can you only imagine how much stuff could have been changed had we said some of the things that took place within the family?
Right.
I mean, even if you think about it from Joseph's story, can you imagine if the siblings, if the brothers would have talked to Jacob, their father, as far as how they felt about him treating Joseph a certain way, Joseph wouldn't have been probably in slavery.
Right.
But we harbor so many negative feelings and we keep it within, and then our actions start, speaking out, and as we start causing harm amongst ourselves, amongst our loved ones, all because we didn't say anything. So one of the things that kind of can help you is taking responsibility for your own action, not blaming. But then also bring to light those things that are into dark, because truth be told, whatever is done in darkness, it will come to light at some point. Now, I would have more respect if I'm related to you or connected to you and you tell me, then I have to find out somewhere down the line. Then that's going to bring about another dysfunction, because now I can't even trust you.
Right. I think it's important to be able to handle family secrets too, though. Granted, you don't have to tell everybody, your whole entire family, because everybody can't handle it.
Absolutely.
But at the same time, you should tell someone, and you should, the person receiving that information should give the advice to the family member on, how to help, not just hear and gossip about it. Because that's what we do a lot of times, and that's why it stays a secret. It just, we talk about it between ourselves, and, not the family member that it really is about in the first place, and the story gets twisted, and the secret is now no longer even the real truth, and it travels down the line, and it's so wrong. And I don't want to purpose for future, especially with my kids. I want to be honest and just tell them, even if it does hurt, or even if it is uncomfortable, because that's why it's a secret. It's not something that you want to brag about.
Being uncomfortable only lasts but for a moment.
Right. And after you get it, out, now what? You're still going to be my mom. Yeah. You're still going to be my sister. Yeah. We can't change that, but let's, move forward.
Let's deal with it. That goes back to effective communication. And that's one thing that you have to have that. You really do have to have that. Even if you don't feel like talking, or you don't know how to express it. Even if you can't verbally express it, write it down. Write a letter or something. But do something where it is shared. Because it can prevent a lot of other things happening if I just say something. And secrets end up weighing, it becomes a burden on you, because you're carrying all of this weight, all of these emotions, and you're having to carry that outside of having to deal with your own life, your own issues and stuff that you have going on. Now I have a backpack on my back while I'm trying to do my own work and my own responsibilities, carrying all of this weight of secrets and emotions that somebody else told me. So they're free and their weight is lifted off, but now I'm carrying other people's weight. And what am I to do with it? So at the end of the day, communicate. Let all of that go. It will prevent, a lot of issues, whether it's frustration, whether it's guilt, whether it's shame. It will prevent a lot of that. Another thing, even as it relates to dysfunction, one of the things that I can say is, how can I say it? Unrealistic expectations. If we have here's the thing. When it comes to certain relationships, there should be some boundaries set. There should be some boundaries as it relates to expectations of what our relationship is going to consist of. Whether it's, my friends or my family, if we have that conversation of what you're expecting from me and what I'm expecting from you, we're on the same page. If we never had that conversation, you have these expectations of me that I was never even aware of, that's going to cause some dysfunction there. Because I didn't know that you wanted me to talk to you every day, all day on the phone. I didn't know you wanted that. You never told me that. So if I don't talk to you all day, every day on the phone, then that causes a problem. Well, I had no idea. Especially because I got to work all day, and you want me to just be on the phone with you all day. Now, that was just a silly example.
It is, but
we have that. We do that.
But this is what happens, and this is why people have unrealistic expectation, is because, to use your example, you could call me every day.
All day.
And I'm used to you calling me every day without us setting that as a boundary. And then all of a sudden you stop. I could feel like, why are you not calling me anymore? Because you were already doing it every day without it being established. Right. So, we sometimes have these expectations because of the treatment that we're receiving, if that makes sense. So
and there's nothing wrong. Yeah, it does go.
It's hard. That's a hard
But you subject. Then also express that, even if the change occurs. You got to communicate, because if you were expecting me to call you every day and I stopped, Janice, I didn't hear from you.
Right.
What's going on? And then my response would be, well, I didn't know I had to. But then you'll say, but you have been doing.
So what happened?
And so then see how that ends up bringing like a dysfunction, because now we're having like a conversation like, okay, so you was doing this, and so now we're having a conversation that's not really like a heated conversation, but why you stopped doing what you was doing. So you got to have expectations or have boundaries established amongst the relationship so that both parties or all parties are on the same page. If you have a tradition that's set amongst your family, whereas every Thanksgiving, your family come together. No matter where you all are in the world, your family come together. If, something happens where one of your family members don't come, then that should be a thing that's communicated as to, well, what was so important, or what was your priority that you didn't make time for this, and this is what we've been doing every year. And a lot of times when something like that does happen as far as a change, like you said earlier, we'll talk to another person about it. We'll talk to another family member about it, but we don't talk to that person directly. And so that person directly is moving, living their life, not knowing that you felt some sort of way that they didn't come to the tradition.
Right.
Now, the other people know that you felt some sort of way because you vented and expressed it to them, but you didn't express it to the person that you had the issues with.
Right.
And that's why it's so important. If I'm feeling some sort of way towards you, let me express that to you. Otherwise, a person is not going to know that they're doing something wrong or that they need to change their actions if you don't bring it to their attention.
Yeah.
I mean, rightfully so. Joseph's brothers never brought to Jacob's attention that, hey, Dad, why are you treating Joseph like this? Like, I feel some sort of way. I mean, you got him a coat with many colors. You doing all this special treatment for him. And all of us out here cold, not having a coat. And you ain't give us nothing. Why did you do that for Joseph and not for us? Now, the brothers talked amongst each other. And then they schemed and then plotted out a plan or whatever. But had they talked to Jacob, that probably could have changed the whole story of Joseph.
Absolutely.
But they never communicated who they had the issue with. They had the issue with Jacob. But they took it out on Joseph. And that's what we do. We have an issue with somebody else, but we take it out on somebody else that don't even deserve it. And
or
now
someone that is smaller than
they
you.
Can't even handle it.
Yeah, because you don't want to go to the person with the authority.
Right.
Because you know that you can only say but so much to them.
Yeah.
And then you go to the one that you can attack. And
that's how we do with our jobs. If I have a problem with my boss, I'm gonna talk to my co-workers. You ain't gonna really talk to the boss about it. You gonna talk to you and vent to your co-workers who really can't do anything about it. So why even talk to them? But you talk to your co-workers and you talk to other people in the office, and your boss have no idea that this is what you're feeling and this is what's going on. And so you wake up and you mad and come to work every day all irritated and all frustrated because you had these feelings towards your boss that your boss had nothing about. And your boss, greeting you every morning. Good morning, how you feeling? And you giving them the side eye because you had these feelings that you never expressed. Things can change if you just express to who you need to express it to. We got to take responsibility for our own actions, and then we got to communicate. If you feel some sort of way towards anybody, let them know. And it's a way that you can say something to somebody without tearing them down. A lot of times we allow, what we feeling because I'm so angry and so frustrated. I never process it, so then I just say it, and then I end up attacking instead of talking. But when you process it, you can process it so that once you actually do have the opportunity to express, you're not attacking the person, but you're talking to the person and sharing with them what's going on. And then I can then come to a mutual understanding of, okay, what can we do to kind of change this? How can we do this? If you gotta go to your boss, okay, now that I understand how you're feeling, let's come up with an agreement that, where both parties are happy. Go ahead.
Just listening to just all of these tools and what you're saying or the different causes of the dysfunction, at the end of the day, I really feel like the only thing you really need to wipe out the dysfunction in your family and your relationships is communication. Like, if you just don't hold it in, or don't blow up, but just talk, it can be worked out. It's really not that deep, even when it's deep. You just talk.
I mean, it would save you a lot of money as far as going to sit on a counselor or a therapist couch. It would save you a lot of time being wasted. I mean, I probably would have some great relationships had I not allowed some of the things that I was dealing with push away the relationships. You know?
React and
yeah. So, I mean, just moving forward, even as it relates to preventing dysfunction, if you take responsibility for your own actions and not blame other people, that will help as far as not, having so much dysfunction. If you remove the shame and the guilt and the pride, that will also help. If you set boundaries within a relationship and not have unrealistic expectations, and you set boundaries as far as, okay, this is what I'm expecting from you, this is what I'm wanting out of a relationship, that would help. And then when it's all said and done, like Steph said, if you just communicate to whoever about what you feeling, when you feeling. Don't allow the communication to take 20 years and then it's like, okay, now I'm ready to deal with. Well, I'm not even in that place. I don't even know what you're talking about. You want me to go all the way back to when I was 6 years old and what you did to me? I don't even remember that. So if it's something that happens or something that affects you, talk about it right then and there so you can deal with it right then and there and move past it. That's all our time. We hope that what we shared, kind of brought some things to light as it relates to, dysfunction amongst the relationships, and gave you some insight of what you can do to prevent dysfunction, because we don't want it to keep on being a thing where every year or every month you're going through the same thing with different relationships, a different person, a different gender, but doing the exact same thing. And we want to kind of prevent that, because we don't want your life to just be a repeated cycle of doing the same thing. So try to purpose to make some better choices so you won't find yourself being in the same boat this year next time. Especially in this harvest season, we're trying to reap and recover everything that we have sown, and I don't want you to miss, some of the blessings because of you harboring ill feelings towards other people. Like let's do better so we can, receive our harvest. Again, we're asking everybody, WBGR, YouTube family, Pastor's birthday is in a couple of days. So if you all want to sow a seed, you can sow a seed to his Cash App. And his Cash App is the $, capital D, lowercase r, capital J, capital E, capital S. Yep. And just drop, a Cash App. He doesn't know that this is what we're doing. He didn't ask us to do anything, but because we're his partners in crime. We're his co-hosts, and we want you all just to do something special. If you're not electronic savvy and you want to call in or mail in a seed just to say happy birthday, Pastor, thank you for all that you are, you can contact me, Janice Sturdivant, and I can be reached at 301-736-2383. 301-736-2383. Contact me, and I'll be so excited to give you that information. And 7 o'clock tonight, if you don't have a church home, come to Faith United Ministries, 7905 Fernham Lane, District Heights, Maryland. It's our Bible study night, and we have some more teaching. Thank you, WBGR. Thank you, Coy. Thank you, Mr. Lionel Green. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you all later. Y'all have a good one. YouTube, if y'all can copy, paste this, share this on your timeline.
Please.
Let people know, like, hey, this is what I'm receiving and it's helping me, and I want to help you as well. If you really love them, you will give them what is needed. All right, thank you, Talentia Bowden. Great show. Thank you. Appreciate you all for tuning in. 3 o'clock, we'll be back with a whole new teaching. Thank y'all so much. Thank y'all. See